Hello YouTube, this is the Bucket coming at you today with a Walther P38. Mine was made in 1943 and it was made for the German military. It was manufactured by Walther, and we're going to talk a little bit about the manufacturers and a little bit about the history of this pistol here in a minute. But let's just go ahead and talk about what this pistol is. So the specs of this particular gun are 8.4 inches in the length. The barrel length is going to be 4.9 inches. The overall width is going to be 1.5 inches. The overall height is going to be 5.4 inches, and it weighs in at 28 ounces. If you have a true Walther P38, it's going to have a steel frame, steel slide, and steel barrel. If you have a P1 or anything made after World War II, they started using aluminum alloy frames, and so those will be a little bit lighter if you have a P1. So this pistol, like I said, fires from an 8-round detachable box magazine, so you can carry 8+1 in the chamber. Like I said, it's a double action, single action, and it's one of the first military pistols that has a safety decocker. It also has a loaded chamber indicator. So if you take a snap cap and put it in your magazine and go ahead and chamber around, you're going to see that out the back is going to have a little chamber, loaded chamber indicator. You can feel it, and you can actually see it very easily when you have a round in the chamber. It's a unique gun that actually ejects rounds to the left. Pretty much all guns eject to the right. The P38 is a unique design that makes it an absolute pleasure to shoot and cause some companies to steal the notes and make other classic firearms. So let's disassemble this firearm to show you how to maintain your firearm, and then we'll show you some of those really unique mechanical features. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to remove the magazine. You're going to want to check to make sure there's nothing in the chamber. Then go ahead and drop the hammer with the decocker safety and leave the safety on. At that point, you can rack the slide, put on the slide stop, move the disassembly lever to the forward position, and then when you drop the slide, the hammer will drop, and you'll need that hammer down for the slide and barrel to come off. Now you've got your slide and barrel. All you have to do is push on this falling block, and the barrel will come right out of the gun. You'll notice that there's no recoil springs because the recoil springs are a dual recoil spring setup that actually runs into the frame, which makes the recoil really, really pleasurable on this gun. Again, with the P38, you've got an all-steel frame. And this is how you can show that your gun is very different than a traditional Browning tilting barrel design. Because with a Browning design, when the gun reciprocates a little bit, the barrel will actually tilt up, allowing the slide to move back further and to cause the gun to be safe. Now the problem with that is now you've got a barrel that tilts on an axis while firing, which can affect some accuracy. Mauser didn't want to do that, so they came up with a new design, which is a falling block design. So what happens with this gun is as the gun, when the firing pin hits the primer, the bullet goes down the barrel, the slide and the barrel reciprocate back until the bullet can leave the end of the barrel. At that point, it hits the frame, drops this locking block, which causes the barrel to stay fixed, and then the slide moves back further, causing the case to eject and to pick up a new round and to chamber that and to be ready for some more pew. Now what that happens is while the barrel is moving to keep the gun in battery or to keep the gun safe, it isn't tilting. Partner that with the front sight being on the barrel itself, it makes for an extremely accurate, extremely reliable, and extremely low recoiling gun. It's such a good design that at the end of the war, Beretta stole the notes and ended up using this exact design to make the 1951 and then move on to the Beretta 92 series, the M9 series, however you want to reference it. So if you actually look at a Beretta M9, it's going to have the exact same setup. It's going to have a barrel that interfaces with the slide. It has a falling block. It has dual recoil dual recoil springs, and it it's just pretty much an exact copy. Now, you can't interchange the two, but as far as mechanics, they are the exact same. So it's a really good design that's been used for decades. So to reassemble the pistol after you get it cleaned and you get it oiled the way that you want to, you just go ahead and you put your barrel back into the slide. You'll see that the falling block is down at the bottom. And as you put the slide back on the frame, when it comes up here, you can kind of see how it works. You'll want to push that falling block up, and then the slide will go back on the pistol. At that point, you just rack the slide back to the back, put on the slide stop slide release, put back down the disassembly lever, and your gun is ready and reassembled. Then you can do a function check to make sure that everything's operating the way that it's supposed to. And you're ready for some more pew. Great design, so much so Beretta stole the notes. In World War I, the German military went to war with the P08 as their standard sidearm. These were made by DWM and they were made by Erfurt, and they produced them throughout the entire war. At the end of the war, DWM went out of business, and as the Nazis started to gear up for war again and rearmament, they did not have a gun to replace the Luger, so Mauser ended up starting to produce the Luger again for World War II. They have a couple of different codes, but mine is a 42 code. There's an S42, and mine has 1939 as the date on the chamber. Some of them early on, when they were still trying to hide the fact that they were producing arms for World War II, they had a G date and they had a K date as well. Their intention was to never really go to war again with the Luger because these were just too time-intensive to produce. They had to be hand-fit, they were very, very expensive, and they were not as rugged as some pistols that were out on the market. But this is what they had. When they ended up adopting the P38 pistol, obviously the Germans ended up adopting it in 1938, but Walther wasn't ready to produce the pistols. They didn't actually start delivering any of them until late 1939. It did not really get into production until 1940. So the total production of these pistols was 584,500 pistols made from 1939 to 1945. That wasn't going to be enough, so in 1942, the German started to allow Mauser and Spreewerke to produce more of the P38 pistols. All in told, Mauser ended up making 323,000 pistols, and Spreewerke made just under 300,000 pistols. Now, as it was with all German arms manufacturer, you won't see the actual names of any of the companies on the guns that they produced. So the Walther had a special code and it was AC. Mauser was BYF, and they, at the end of the war, ended up having a different code, SVW. And actually, after the war ended, some of them were still produced by the Allies. So you'll see some SVWs without the Waffenamts on them. And Spreewerke had CYQ as their code. Now you'll see mine, it's kind of hard to read on the camera, as AC43. And Mauser and Walther pistols actually have the code and the year of manufacturing, which makes it really nice for dating them. You can actually look up when the Spreewerke ones are from the website Pistol 38. They have some really nice charts there. Check them out. They've been really helpful for me as I'm going through these pistols. Interesting thing about the serial numbers. So if you have a Walther or a Mauser pistol, they tried to produce 100,000 pistols about a month. So when you look at your gun, mine's an AC43. If you look at the serial number here, you're going to have 4 digits and then you're going to have a letter. A kind of good rough estimate on your age is if they made about 100,000 a month, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So my gun was produced around July of 1942. So you can get kind of a cool date and kind of think about what was happening during the war when your gun was produced, and think add a few months and that's probably when a soldier got it. If you want some more specific information, again, check out pistol38.nl. That's a website, and they have really, really great date information for your specific pistol and manufacturer. For the Spreewerke, since they didn't have date years on the slides, it's really, really helpful with those guns. I have my P38 disassembled now. So when you're looking at these, when they were accepted by the German military, they would end up getting a special stamp called a Waffenamt. And that was a military acceptance stamp. And they like to put a lot of them on their guns. So if you have a Walther, it's going to have an Eagle over 359 Waffenamt. That's what I have right now, right here in front of you. Mauser will have a 135, an Eagle over 135, and later on in the war, it would have an Eagle over a WAA 135. Spreewerke will have an Eagle over 88. So when you look at your gun, the first place that you're going to look for your Waffenamt is right next to the serial code. So most serial codes will have a 4-digit serial code because they had them in 10,000 gun blocks. And then it'll have a suffix of a letter. Mine is 5280H, and then it will have a Waffenamt. And if you look on mine, it's kind of hard to see. There's an Eagle over 359. On your slide, you're going to end up having a series of marks. You're going to have 2 Waffenamts. The first one and the last one will have an Eagle 359. And then you'll have a proof mark, which is an Eagle over a swastika. On the barrel, the serial number will be on the front right here. It's going to have the 4-digit code and the suffix. Then you're going to have your falling block. Now, the falling blocks will usually be in the white. Some of the ones from Spreewerke will actually be blued. You're going to have a proof mark, which is going to be the Eagle over the swastika. You're going to have your serial number, which usually just the last 3 digits. And then you're going to have the Waffenamt right here on the other side of the falling block. As far as your magazines go, they changed a lot throughout the war. So I'm going to give you the basic stuff for kind of the most common ones that you're going to see. But if yours is a little bit different, check out the websites. There's going to be tons of good information out there. So for a wartime produced magazine, they're not going to have a manufacturer on them. Some of the early ones will have a serial number to your gun. That's really, really early on in the war. It's pretty unique. And most of the guns that you're going to see for your P38s are going to have non-numbered magazines. Again, you're going to see P38. Mine has an AC down here, which means it's an armorer's mag. It's kind of a rarer one. But if you see that, that doesn't mean that it's faked. They're going to be riveted together. The post-war ones for your P38s and your P1s, they're not, and they're going to have the manufacturer's mark down on there. As far as Waffenamts, that's what you're going to want to look for on a wartime magazine. The early ones will have 1 or 2 Waffenamts down here at the bottom of the magazine, but most of the wartime produced ones are going to be on the spine. They'll be at different locations, but mine's right about here. Mine's upside down, which again is not a problem. And it does have the correct Eagle 359, which is a Walther stamp for my Walther gun. At the end of World War II, the P38 was a great firearm, and actually when the Germans started to rearm themselves again, they ended up adopting the P1. The P1 is the exact same pistol as the P38, but it has an aluminum alloy frame. They stayed in service for decades with the German military, so much so that actually after the P2, the Astra design, and the P3, which is the P210 design, they actually readopted more of a P38 style pistol, the P4, but just had a shortened barrel. They did that because these are great shooters. They're so much fun to take to the range. They're really, really easy to shoot. They're intuitive. They're very accurate. Actually, I just took mine to the range the other day, and I held a really pretty impressive group at 10 yards. I did have one flyer, but the rest of that was really, really good. They're very accurate. They're very reliable. I had no problems with reliability out of my pistol. It takes a little getting used to having the brass eject to the left, but that's nothing that you can't get past. I mean, I could see somebody feeling very comfortable with this as a home defense weapon. I mean, obviously, you know, the historical value is going to be something that you might not want to do that. And the magazine capacity only being 8 rounds is not ideal with so many other options out there. But it's a great gun. And the Bucket's a big fan of interacting with history. This was a gun that was used by a German soldier in World War II. A US GI picked this up and decided to have this as a souvenir to bring back, and had that with him for the rest of his life, and ended up getting traded on the collector market where I ended up getting it. It's just an awesome piece of history, and something that, you know, like I said, is something that can still be a lot of fun today. Now, the later post-war guns, the ones that are labeled P38 but have an aluminum frame, or the ones that are labeled P1, occasionally there'll be a batch of them that get military surplus, like we had here in 2023, where these guns were being sold for under $600. And while the aluminum alloy framed ones don't hold up quite as well as the steel ones do, they're still really great guns to shoot at the range. Then they're a lot of fun and have their own history to tell, even if it isn't World War II history. So if anybody sees one, hopefully this information was helpful to you. I would definitely recommend going to the Pistol 38 NL website. So much great information there. They've accumulated this over years and years and years. Great graphs, great charts to help you date your stuff, look at your serial numbers and things of that nature. I'm a big fan of these particular firearms. So something you should think about when you go to that next gun show. I do want to thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. All the likes, the comments, the shares are really, really appreciated. And as always, you stay classy, YouTube.
I learned a lesson. Never half-ass two things. Whole-ass one thing.